at how thick your rim is, because that's a good indication of how thick you want the handle. Everyone always makes them too big, and a giant handle on a cup can ruin it, okay? Different ways you can do this. And I forgot to bring a knife. Do you have a knife I can borrow? Okay, thank you. So the first is just to cut it out of the slab, right? So, and that works for something, you know, I haven't gotten those feet on yet, but let's say I just want to play around with, you know, some kind of shape.
Boom.
I know. Well, we'll
and
see.
then she does it perfectly somehow.
Oh, yeah.
But this is
No
looking
measurements
giant.
needed.
I think it's a beer mug.
Yeah. Okay. So it's going to see how much it shrinks. But you know, if I just play around, so again, this is pretty thick, so I'll probably want to thin it out. Another thing I could do, you know, I can start to kind of play around with, well, where do I want this? Do I want this on this side? This is more of a kind of a whimsical, kind of playing with design elements kind of mug, kind of cup, okay? I could do it on this side, but I can also, you know, pinch this side thinner, right? So that it has the look of being thin on this side, but then it's still comfortable for my hand on the inside. And I would also, sorry for this, there's not a lot of room here, but I would also take my finger and smooth down these edges, because when you do these mugs, you really want, do you want me to tell them to be quiet? Hey guys, if you want to go over handles, come on over. Okay, so nice and smooth for comfort, right? If you're going to use it at all. And I think it just looks better. It looks more finished. So finishing on these is pretty important altogether. Now I can really work this. I can take a rib with a little bit of water and kind of play around with how I smooth it down. Can you guys all see? No, this isn't ideal. We're taking up a lot of space. I'll just do the bottom end so you can kind of get a sense of it. Okay, so already that's looking better, right? Well, it's looking kind of big down here, so I'll probably cut it down a little bit. But that's the idea of just cutting these out and playing around with how it's going to fit on there. And, you know, you can try a whole bunch of different ones. Maybe I can probably even stretch this a little, right? And maybe I bring this down a little, see what this looks like. Let's bring this in a little. I think in general they look better when they're a little bit tapered here, okay? So that's looking better, right? And I could even play around with it coming way off the top if I wanted to and shrink this down a little. I mean, you know, clay, you can do so much with it, okay? So, you know, if I want this to be really functional, I'm gonna want more room for my hands, so I go back to here, okay? So that's pretty easy. Okay, so if you have something you want a more traditional, the most, you know, wheel throwers, potters, tend to pull a handle, okay? So to start that, I'm going to, can you guys see? Okay, I'm gonna roll a coil, but I'm gonna taper it. And when you're doing these, the trick to rolling an even coil is don't press down too hard, okay? Keep it light and kind of like what I do is stretch my fingers out and kind of pull it out as I'm going. This is giant, so I don't need it so big. Okay? And I'm gonna help myself out by pulling this, or tapering it a little bit more, okay? All right, so this looks like a pretty good start. And then I get my water, okay? And I'm gonna start, and I'm just doing this with my hands, right? It's sort of pinching and pulling. And you need a lot of water to get this going, okay? So then I flip it because I tend to pull towards me. So as I'm going, I keep moving it around. I can even do the sides, but that's the general idea. Okay? And then I look and I see it's just really easy to have it still feel too thick. All right, it's looking better. Okay, so when I cut this, now some people will keep it like this, okay? And they'll let it harden a little and then they'll come back. So another thing you can do is you can put it right on, you can throw it right on. So if I make a little, and you know, really I should be, let me try this.
Fork?
This will be okay. And you guys know that if you use pencils, they, the graphite will burn off, right? I think I mentioned that once. This is so wet and it's got so much slip on it already that I'm not going to worry about putting a slip on there. Maybe I'll put a little water and work that in. Okay, so if I then come back to this one and cut this at a nice angle, okay, and then I'm going to hold this. I'm going to stick it on like this, okay, kind of wiggle it on. So I can, well, this one's pretty good. I can even kind of think about, you know, maybe that's pretty good, right? So I'm going to push it in, and then I'm going to work this in.
Right.
Okay, and I can
Sell it for $10 in the store.
I can kind of play around with how much I want that to come up. But look at, you know, even that looks a little bit wide, right? So sometimes you think it's looking really good and you get it up and it's like, well, you know, I can make that even a little thinner. Although this is a pretty big one, so maybe visually that's going to be okay. But look at the difference between how thin and then how thick. So you want them to be a little bit closer, I would say. Okay, so
and that's enough for it to be adhered to?
yeah. Now I'm gonna work this, but if I press this too much right now, it's so wet, and this will be fine right here. What I could do as it gets a little harder is come in with a paintbrush and a little slip and clean it up around here. Okay, so you can also do this by taking a piece and just throwing it right on. Sometimes I like this technique, so I kind of get it ready. We'll do it on the opposite side.
It's a demo cup.
I can probably fix it. Okay. Sometimes people like to do this because you can work it in from the top and from this side, right? All the way around. It's got to really be on there though. Because then I'm going to hold it like this. It's what?
It's a Pinocchio.
Pinocchio mug.
I love it. And I'm going to slowly start to work this. So
Are you holding it on with your baby finger there?
No?
No.
No. Okay. Woohoo! Move it around. So, you know, I like this because I can really get right in here, but it's probably maybe a little bit harder from doing it separate, and you have to make sure that your cup is really pretty leathery, okay? But you can keep working it, and then it's almost there. I could probably do a couple more holes, and then I can kind of play around with. So you can see the difference, how that looks. You get just a little bit more of a connection in here. So 2 ways there. Let's try one other. So that's pulling a handle, okay? And lots of water. Just work with it right over the water so you can dip it. But, you know, sometimes just doing a simple, now I got my hands all wet. So, you know, the most simple, and they really actually look pretty good. And I think it looks a little bit better on pieces that are hand-built because it is a really hand-built kind of method. So again, you gotta roll these out. And then think about, you know, your design elements. Where are you gonna connect it? I mean, this could become a handle, right? I could take this, and I can, let me roll it a little bit thinner. And then I can, you know, curl up the edge a little so that this looks a little bit big. Right? So again, I want this to have more of an angle, okay? Something like that. so that when I put it on, it's already starting to do that. Now I didn't score it, but it's a demo. Okay, so now I can work it in. Okay, and I can arc it a little bit more.
So cute.
Yeah, I mean, really simple, right? So you can also roll those flat, you know, you can have a
Pattern
foil
on
and
them.
then just roll it flat and do the same thing. So you start with your cylinder, because that one, you know, for wheel thrown, you tend to get things a little thinner. That's too small. I'll try this one. But this is a lot of coil rolling, so you guys will get really good at that. Okay. So if you really want to try to be consistent with the rim, then just take this and roll it down. Getting a little tacky, right? And then I cut my angle, which is going to dictate how much it's going to go up. Okay? So there you go. Work that in. Whoops, let's try it again. Not scoring, you would want to score. I mean, I could have it come like this, right? And have a little tail right at the end. So you can kind of play around with how that looks like. It's a little bit big. Okay? What's one other area, one other thing I'll show you, and then you guys can start. So you can kind of see, you have lots of choices. You can wind two together and then flatten it. So let's try these. You just got to go kind of thin. Use this one. Okay. We'll wind these two. Yeah. So I can
And they
roll
don't
it.
need slip between them or anything, they just stay together.
They do. I mean, I can flatten it, right? And then,
Wow, that's fabulous.
you know, really simple, huh?
Yeah.
And that took me, what, all of a minute? Okay. But again,
Nice.
you just have to think.
For me, a week.
And look at, you know, the glaze is going to go over texture really nicely. So anything that has texture, it's going to be really good. But think about how can you incorporate some of this design back into your design here. You know, I might decide I want to like put texture on here, right? So even just look around at what you have, because those can be kind of cool when the glaze is over it. Okay. So tomorrow we'll look at the glazes, and you can really get a sense of some of your options. Okay.